Welcome back to Believe in Jets, a New York Jets podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. My name is Rami Lavi, and I just got done watching LeBron James and the LA Lakers. And I promise you, I'm not going to make this all about basketball again for a second straight episode. It's just that I just got done watching it, and there's big Jet news. So I do want to talk about the Jet stuff. There's a lot to get to with the Jets, but I mean, it's special. And if you tell me that the Lakers can't win the finals, LeBron is motivated, LeBron is angry, LeBron is out to prove a point, and he's still one of the greatest players ever, and he can still get it done. He can't do this on a nightly basis. I understand that. What he did tonight against the Warriors was special. 42 points, 17 rebounds, 8 assists. It's just unbelievable that this guy at 40 years old can still do this. And he's trying to prove a point because something I thought about and an idea that's been floated around. I'm not going to be the first person to say this, as we've had almost a week now, 5 days to sit on this Luka Doncic trade that is still mind boggling. It's still crazy. And it took over the entire Super Bowl radio row and all that stuff. You know, we were talking basketball a lot this week. We really were. Whoever you are and whatever show you work for and wherever you are, or whatever show you like to listen to. There was a lot of basketball this week, and it continued, by the way. It didn't end with LeBron James with all the other trades, obviously the latest being Jimmy Butler, of course, and of course the De'Aaron Fox trade earlier in the week. It was a busy trade deadline for the NBA, although I think deadline day, there wasn't as many moves. DeAndre Hunter got moved, finally. I feel like DeAndre Hunter and John Collins were being talked about in trade rumors for maybe 15 of the last, I don't know, 15 of the last 20 years. Literally, every time there was a trade deadline offseason, like they've been getting traded for longer than they've been in the league, John Collins and DeAndre Hunter. And finally, they're both off of the Atlanta Hawks, and that is a great trade for Cleveland. That's a guy I really wanted for the Knicks. When I saw him playing against the new look Spurs the other night, I was like, man, that's a guy. He can hit threes, he can defend, he's big, he can play multiple positions on both sides. I love what DeAndre Hunter brings, and he is a huge addition for the Cavs. He brings a toughness to them, he brings an edge to them, but he can also shoot. He's also a DN3 guy. The Knicks, it's interesting now. They can only, they have limited funds now, what they could spend in the buyout market. So it's an interesting situation what's going on with the Knicks right now, because they didn't make a move. They like their team. They're going to go ahead with Mitchell Robinson. They're going to go ahead with everyone else. They like what they have going for them right now. So I don't hate the Knicks saying, hey, let's plow forward with this team. Let's see what we got. Let's see if we go on a run with this squad. Maybe they know something about OG that we don't. I think they do know something that we don't, but they didn't make any further moves, so we'll see what happens with them. But back to the Lakers and back to my point. To think that they're not one of the favorites to go to the NBA Finals right now, they should be one of the teams to be most feared of in the West. If you are OKC, if you are Denver, if you're one of these teams in the West that has your sights on the NBA Finals, look out, because angry LeBron and angry Luka are going to go on a revenge tour. And what I started saying before is that people have theorized that part of making this trade for Luka Doncic was the Lakers were fed up with the LeBron dictatorship. They wanted out from under the LeBron dictatorship. They didn't want him to tell them what to do anymore. They didn't want him bringing his kid in, who's clearly not ready to be an NBA player. And not only that, he made them use a draft pick on him and sign him to a 4-year contract. The dictatorship, the comments in the media, I think we don't have enough to win. I think we need to do this. Obviously, all the snide comments that are coming from Clutch and them putting out rumors and people leaking things, they're done with that. They don't have to deal with that. Now, when LeBron does his shtick, they can look at him and say, this is Luka's team now. Sorry, LeBron, you can't treat us like that anymore. Now, I don't think that's why they made the trade. The trade was brought to them. They didn't approach Dallas with this crazy offer for Luka Doncic. In fact, what we learned after the fact was they got talked down in the offer. Like they offered more originally, the Lakers did. And then Rob Pelinka basically said, well, if this is such a problem, like if he's such a problem, if Luka Doncic is such a problem, maybe I shouldn't be giving all these draft picks. Maybe I should only give one. And the Mavericks are like, oh, yeah, you're kind of right. Maybe you should only give one. It's crazy. It's crazy how this trade happened. It's still unbelievable. But the LeBron piece of this, saying that, oh, they wanted out from under it, I think once they knew that this trade was happening, they saw it as an opportunity. They probably went to LeBron and said, hey, here's what's happening. We're making this trade. You can't stop us. This is what's happening. Get on board or don't. We could trade you if you want. If you want to waive your no trade clause, we could trade you elsewhere. I do think the Warriors did want to trade for LeBron. They wanted to trade for KD. Both of those didn't happen because the player said no, and LeBron said, hey, I'm on board. So I don't think this was a move to get out of the LeBron dictatorship, quote unquote. I think it's an added bonus that now they don't have to cater to every single one of LeBron James' needs because they have other options. They have good options. But it's not like, oh, they made this trade because they were tired of LeBron and his antics. No, they weren't tired of LeBron. They just literally just signed his kid. They just gave a draft pick for him. They signed him a 4-year deal. They're still very much in the LeBron business, but it is an added bonus that moving forward, they don't have to strictly be in the LeBron business. They have some leverage, and LeBron knows that. So what does he go out there and do? He says, oh, you're tired of me and my quote unquote antics? I'm going to go off for 40 something points and show you that I can still carry this team. I think LeBron has a chip on his shoulder. So the Lakers, like by accident, stumbled into this incredible thing. Not only are you going to get Luka, an angry Luka, who at his worst, quote unquote, when he's out there drinking beers and getting fat and not showing up to practices and doing all the things that he was doing in Dallas that Dallas deemed so terrible that they needed to get rid of him. They needed to lose him for almost nothing. And apparently Dallas didn't feel it that way. They were like shocked at the backlash from this trade. They didn't think it was going to be this crazy backlash. Terrible miscalculation. I don't believe in any of the conspiracy theories, even the one that I suggested at the end of the last episode. You can go back and listen. I don't believe that, but the idea that they were shocked at the discourse after the trade is crazy to me. That's first of all. But now the Lakers stumbled into this trade where they get angry Luka, who's had his name dragged all week. He was caught off guard. He was mad at this. He's sad. He's upset. He's 25 years old. He was uprooted from Dallas, just bought a house there, $15 million. No one's crying for him. Gets paid a ton of money. He's going to get paid a ton of money. He's one of the best basketball players in the world. He's going to be for the next 15 years. No one's crying for Luka Doncic, but he feels like he was slighted in all of this. He feels like his name got dragged in the media all week, and I fully believe it. So you have an angry Luka Doncic who's going to get in the best shape of his life. He's going to watch LeBron say, I'm going to do that regimen or to the best of my ability because I want revenge. I want to prove the Mavs wrong. And now you have angry LeBron. You in the process got LeBron mad at you, and to prove a point, he's going to now go off now and just go as crazy as he can. And we've seen him now do it again. He does this always when he plays against Steph Curry. He does this always when he plays at Madison Square Garden. These are the types of games LeBron can pick it up for a game or two at a time. All he needs to do is a couple of times per series, and they can cakewalk to the finals. Luka dragged the bum-ass Mavs team to the finals last year. You don't think he could walk through the West with LeBron James and some of the pieces they have and then the trade they made for the center? I think is a huge move for the Lakers. There's that whole aspect of it. I think Luka's going to go on a crazy revenge tour. And then I think Luka's not going to he's not going to sign the contract with the Lakers. Look, now that he can't sign the contract in the summer, the Supermax, I think he might as well just wait till next summer and be like, I'm going to be a free agent like we've never seen before. A 27-year-old superstar in free agency, fully a free agent. Come at me. Everyone come and get me. It's like LeBron the summer he went to Miami. It's like Kevin Durant the summer that he went to Golden State. It's like we just saw with Shohei Ohtani last year and with Juan Soto this offseason. Luka wants to be wined and dined. He's going to prove to the Mavs, oh, you didn't want me? I'm going to go to free agency. I'm going to watch teams come beg to sign me for $500 million. They're not just going to want me. They're going to beg me to sign with them for $500 million in the offseason. But you didn't want to pay me. You didn't want to give me the extension. You had the rights to me when no one else did, but you didn't. Now I'm going to ball out, maybe win a championship with LeBron James, and then maybe I'll become the face of the Lakers for the next 15 years, or maybe I'll take my talents to wherever the hell I want, and I'll watch teams throw themselves at me for anything just for me to come play for them. That is the ultimate middle finger that he could give back to the Lakers, give back obviously to the Mavs more than the Lakers. It's a crazy plot to watch develop over the next 2 years in the NBA, and this is why the NBA, this is why they own the storylines. They're dramatic, they own the storylines, and now they own this. Like, this is such a great thing. So for people who are like, oh, the league should have shut this down, no, this is so good for basketball. This is so good for ratings. Everyone's gonna watch this play out. Everyone's gonna watch all the shows. I was fascinated watching the guys on the TNT crew tonight. They have my attention always. They're so funny. They're so talented. But this is what the league does. They create these drama stories, and then you want to hear what everyone has to say about the NBA. They stole headlines during Super Bowl week. They stole headlines all week, and it's unbelievable. And so this is a really fascinating story, and I think this LeBron piece of this, because they did not go into this trade saying, "Oh, we're gonna get out from under the whole clutch LeBron era. This is it." But it was an added bonus for them, and LeBron feels slighted by that, and he's going to go off. He wants. Look, I don't believe that he didn't know the trade happened, but I don't think he was consulted about it. I don't think they went to LeBron and said, "Do you want us to make the trade? Do you not?" They went into this trade. We're making this trade. LeBron, get on board or don't. And he chose to get on board, and he's going to go off because doesn't have a lot of opportunities yet left. And this is a real opportunity for him to win a championship in his last 2 years. And I think they could get it done in the next 2 years. Next, another story that's not a Jet story. And that I went way too long on that. I did not mean to go that long on that. I did not mean to talk for 10 minutes about LeBron James. But here we are. So I guess it's going to be a long podcast tonight. How about that? Today, as you're listening to this Friday. Pete Alonso re-signs with the Mets, and I talked about this. I detailed this on many shows, so I'll follow up on this. This is exactly what I said would happen. Eventually, Pete Alonso was going to say, "Hey, look, I'm going to sign here, so just give me something I can stomach." So the Mets said, "Here are two offers," and he took the one that he liked better. Neither of them are a great option for Pete Alonso, but you know what? He's making $30 million in 2025. After the year he had last year, you know what, Pete? Take the $30 million and go out there and crush it. Have a killer year for the Mets. That's what you should be doing. You should be looking at this as an opportunity and saying, look, I didn't have a great walk year. I get to do it again. Not only do I get to do it again, I get to do it with Juan freaking Soto in the lineup. And I have the fallback that, look, even if I stink this year, I have a $24 million player option next year that I could just pick up and stay with the team. This is the best case scenario for Pete Alonso after the way this has been handled. It was foobarred from the start when he declined the offer from the Mets 2 years ago, fired his agency, hired Scott Boras. But you know what? You have an opportunity. We've now seen this with free agents, whether it was Matt Chapman, whether it was Blake Snell, who couldn't get deals. Both of them, by the way, Scott Boras clients in addition to Pete Alonso. But now, Pete, this is the right thing. Nobody wanted to see the Mets go into the season where they sign Juan Soto and everyone's happy, but you couldn't keep your own. The Mets wanted to keep Pete Alonso. You can't convince me they didn't want to keep him, but it was at their number. And their number was, hey, let's see if you're good this year. We'll give you $30 million for this year. We're just thinking about beyond that. They may still go out, by the way, if Pete Alonso hits 50 home runs this year and breaks the Mets all-time home run record, which he very well should. I think he's 27 away. He should break the record. He should have an awesome year. And if he does that, there's still no guarantee the Mets pick up his option next year. He may opt out, get 6-7 years elsewhere, but the Mets might say, hey, we're going to sign Vlad. He's 5 years younger than you. We believe in him long-term more than we believe in you. If Vlad doesn't sign with us, okay, Pete, come on back, and we'll give you the money you deserve now. But I still don't think Pete Alonso is going to be the Mets' top priority, even if he goes off this season. But I'm just happy we didn't want to see, after the year they had, the feel-good story, getting Juan Soto, everything culminating in Pete not being there this year. Like, it just feels, especially the role he played, and I know he wasn't good last year, but he is the heart and soul of that team, next to Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo. The home run he hits in Milwaukee, and I've said this 1,000 times, if he doesn't hit that home run in Milwaukee, we're probably not talking about Juan Soto because they don't think they're a Juan Soto away at that point. Who knows if they go after them? Who knows if he looks at them and says, "Oh, you guys are a viable option for $25 million more. Yeah, I'll go to you." Or maybe he says, "I just went to the freaking World Series with the Yankees. You guys got a magical run the second half of the season with Candelita, but then you got knocked out against Milwaukee in the wild card round." Like, these are things you think about. And I think Juan Soto definitely did think about that when he made his decision to join the Mets. And I think signing Pete Alonso is just the right move for this season. We'll see where it goes beyond this, but for this season, this was something that needed to happen, and so I'm glad it's happening. I'm glad Pete Alonso is coming back, and I hope he goes off, and I hope he gets one of those contracts like a Matt Chapman, like a Blake Snell, like they did after signing big deals. And I don't know if it's going to be with the Mets. They may still decide, hey, we want Vlad Guerrero Jr. Sorry, Pete, but at least for this year, we get to see what the complete team looks like, because now I think the Mets team is complete. Does that mean that I think this pitching staff is going to hold up and they're going to be able to have the success they had last year? No, I don't. I don't think it's going to be the same. I think Mets fans might get disappointed. Like, wait, we did all this and then we relied on, like, I said this earlier in the year. Like, I talked about before the National League Championship Series, I talked about how there's no such thing as house money, right? You can't just say, oh, it's house money. The Mets weren't expected to make it this far. No. You're 4 wins away from the World Series, 8 wins away from a championship. And could you really rely again on Quintana, Severino, Minaya? Now you don't have half those guys back, but the guys that you do have back, Clay Holmes, right? Are you relying on these guys to give you what they gave you last year? It was kind of fluky. Yes, it was incredible. Yes, you give the pitching staff and the lab and all that stuff credit. But at the same time, like, admit that there was a flukiness to all this, especially on the pitching side. I'm not talking about the clutch hitting and the lineup. That's a deadly lineup. I thought the Mets lineup last year was better than the Yankee lineup, and that was when the Yankees had Juan Soto and not the Mets. Now the Mets have Juan Soto, and then their lineup was already better than the Yankees. Their lineup is so much better than the Yankees in 2025. Still, I'm concerned about their pitching. I'm concerned about their bullpen. We'll see what happens. Ryan Stanek had some nice moments where he was very fired up in the playoffs. People wanted him off the team in the regular season. Like, cool your jets. That's all I'll say to Mets fans. Now we got to get to the Jets because this is a huge story. So I'll just read it as it was written. Rick Spielman, who was one of the members of the 2013 former NFL GM with the Vikings, is joining the Jets front office as a senior football advisor. And he said, quote, "For me, the biggest project is trying to rebuild the football operations side of things. There's a lot of changes going on here." I just wanted to read it word for word. He's changing everything. He didn't like the way things were run. He's changing the way things are run in the organization, and that starts from the top down. One of the things I said over and over and over again was that Woody Johnson is not willing to relinquish his control, his tight choke grip that he has on this organization. His chokehold that he has on this organization, he was not willing to let it go. This is a departure from everything that's past Jets, everything that I've yelled and screamed about, everything that I've hated about the Jets offseason. Finally, we are seeing Woody Johnson look in the mirror, take accountability, and actually show with action that this is a departure. We're doing something different. It's not going to be the same old Jets anymore. He looked in the mirror and he pulled a Leon Rose, or he pulled a James Dolan and hired his Leon Rose and World Wide West. Will it work? I don't know. But it had to be done. This is finally the move, as a Jets fan, you've been waiting for. We've been waiting so long for this move to happen. We needed this move to happen. The Jets season could not go on before this move happened. And finally, they understood that. And it took way too long. Trust me, I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy that it took this long for them to realize how bad it was, that you needed someone to be the head of football operations to come in and finally regain control of what was a terrible culture and a terribly run organization. But finally, they did it. Finally, Woody Johnson said, you know what? I'm going to fully back off. I'm going to hire someone to run the football operations. It's not me. So when Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn and these guys, who do they answer to? They answer to a real person who's run a football organization in Rick Spielman. This is huge news for the New York Jets. Huge. And I can't understand it. It felt like it was like this story that just popped up out of nowhere. We didn't even hear that this was happening. And maybe they were going to stay on to advise for the transition period. But then to get this news that Rick Spielman is staying on as a senior advisor and head of football operations, a position the Jets never had, they finally got it right. One thing this offseason, I yelled and screamed about this offseason. I love Aaron Glenn, but I didn't think he's the right hire. Darren Muji seems like a good dude. Didn't think it was the right hire. There are so many things that I thought was wrong about what the Jets did this offseason. And finally, they got something right. Finally, they are showing signs that this is a departure from the same old Jets. This is a change. This is the difference. And it needed to happen. And I'm so glad it happened. Now there's still action that needs to be done. They still need to go out on the field and win football games. They need to figure out what's going on with their roster. But man, does it feel good to finally feel like we have some hope. To look at a move and say, that's the right move. So many moves they made this offseason. It's like, oh, you're pulling your hair out. And now they made one that you can get behind. And before you even see how it plays out, because all the other moves, yes, they could play out great. They could play out terrible. This one, before it even plays out, you're like, I love this move. And that's hiring Rick Spielman. This is incredible. Thank you, Woody, finally. Woody Johnson is in his James Dolan era, as the Taylor Swift fans would say, I guess. He's finally entered his James Dolan era of hiring someone to run the day-to-day football sports operations. I hope Rick Spielman in 5 years from now is looked at the way we look at Leon Rose and World Wide West. Because let me tell you, I was at the Knicks game the other night, and when Jalen Brunson hit that three, and I knew Mike Breen was saying bang on the broadcast, even though I didn't hear him because I was at the game. I mean, I just looked to the heavens like, this athlete, this is incredible. What we have here, Jalen Brunson in that game against Houston would not let them lose. And then the next night, he did it again in Toronto. He's like, oh, this is slipping away. I won't let us lose. He is one of the rarest superstars. He's so special. Mike Breen talked about it when he talked to them on their Roommates Show podcast, which was awesome. He's like, do you guys realize what you mean to the city? What you've done for this city? Someone could be that for the Jets. The Jets are downtrodden, but they are an organization that has loyal fans that love them. Somebody could come in here and be that. And I hope we look at Rick Spielman the way that Knicks fans, and myself included, look at Leon Rose and World Wide West. And we're thanking Woody Johnson the way we thank James Dolan for handing over the operations. That's a real possibility here. That's what could be happening with this team. So while I didn't agree with anything they did this offseason to this point, despite it could work, despite the fact that it could work, I didn't agree with it. But now there's finally a move that I could get behind and point at. It's like, damn, there's a departure. There's a change. There's what I've been looking for with this organization all offseason. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to give you my Super Bowl picks, my Super Bowl bet, and I'm going to tell you why the Chiefs' dominance proves it's another reason why Aaron Rodgers should be the quarterback for the New York Jets in 2025. I'll explain that and a whole lot more coming up after a quick break. All right, coming back, we have a lot of Super Bowl prop bets. I'll give you all of mine a little bit later, and they're all brought to you, and the entire episode is brought to you by BetOnline. The biggest betting weekend of the year is finally here, which means more updated odds and props for Super Sunday. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. We have hundreds of props, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today and make the game day action count a little bit more. BetOnline, the game starts here. By the way, it's still written incorrectly, so if you keep hearing me fumble on this ad read, it's because it's written incorrectly. Anyway, BetOnline, check them out. Obviously, huge sponsor of the podcast, and we appreciate them for sponsoring the podcast. By the way, if you see this hat, Huga House, go to Huga House, use code Rami, my first name, Rami. Also, great sponsor of the podcast, great sponsor of the show. And you see Aaron Rodgers wearing these hats. He wears them they made a little Aaron Rodgers version of the hat with a picture of him on it, which is super cool. You could check that out as well. And Aaron Rodgers should be the Jets quarterback next year. And before we get into all the props from the game, I was looking at this game and I'm like, damn, the Chiefs are not the better team. The Chiefs just scored enough points to beat every team this year. They didn't feel like they dominated. We just watched the best roster in football, the Philadelphia Eagles, carve through the entire NFC. They didn't have to play the Lions, sure. And no one was playing the healthy Lions by the time you got to that point. But we saw them carve through everyone in the NFC and then dominate at home against Washington. They put up 50 points in the NFC Championship game. When was the last time we saw that? So, to me, the Eagles should be favored in this game by 2.5 points at least. It should be about a field goal spread, and the Eagles should be favored. The fact that the Chiefs are favored in this game makes no sense, and yet you think about it, and I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes. The Eagles should be favored by 3 points, and yet still, I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I just can't do it. So, despite the fact that the Eagles have the better roster, they have the offensive line and defensive line. They have Saquon Barkley. They can just turn around and hand it to him every time. They have the receivers on the edge. The defense is insane. The defensive backs. Everything they have is better than the Chiefs. We just saw them put up 50 freaking points against Kansas City. Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes, and that's all I need to know. And that tells you how special Patrick Mahomes is. And it got me to thinking about the New York Jets. Because to me, when I look at the AFC, all the top quarterbacks are in the AFC. Think about it. If Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or even some of the younger guys with CJ Stroud and even a guy like Trevor Lawrence who hasn't lived up to the hype yet, or Justin Herbert who hasn't lived up to the hype yet, if any of those guys were in the NFC, they'd probably be going to Super Bowls. But they can't beat Patrick Mahomes. And the one guy who did, and Joe Burrow, my God. Joe Burrow has to go to sleep at night every single night regretting not winning that Super Bowl. Because who knows when he'll ever get back? Who knows when he'll ever get the opportunity to beat Patrick Mahomes again? Now, Josh Allen has had opportunities to beat Patrick Mahomes. The one time, obviously, the 13-second game. But the last couple of times, he's had the ball down 3 with an opportunity to go win the game. And in both opportunities, I think Nick Wright said this on a podcast, he's had the ball down 3 each of the last 2 years with a chance to go score points and win the AFC Championship game, or at least win a game against the Chiefs last year. Wasn't in the AFC Championship games. And he put up a total of 17 yards in those 2 games. So is it kind of on you, Josh? Is it not on the refs? Is it not on blaming everyone else? Is it kind of on you? This is not an anti-Josh Allen thing. I think he's played great. But my point is, Patrick Mahomes is that special. And these quarterbacks, like I said, Joe Burrow, you beat him. You got past Mahomes. You went into Burrowhead, right? You called it that because you beat him there. And you didn't get it done in the Super Bowl. That might have been your only opportunity. You didn't play this great team. They were this dynasty. You played the Rams. And they were a good team. They were really good that year. They had a really good coaching staff, loaded coaching staff, a bunch of head coaches in the league. They had Aaron Donald still in his dominance. Obviously, Matthew Stafford and what he did in Cooper Kupp in that game. All that, great. But that was your chance. How about the day after I make the comp? This was also super funny. The day after I make the comp of trading Joe Burrow for Myles Garrett requests a trade. You probably watched my TikTok. I was like, I should request a trade. You're right, Rami. By the way, I was working on Radio Row. I did actually produce an interview with Myles Garrett this week on the Infinity Sports Network, and I was working with the Zach Gelb Show. So my first Radio Row is complete. I was not there in person. I was working from the studios in New York City or my bed, depending on the day. Well, there was one day where Zach was like, we appreciate Rami and all the hard work you do back at the studios in New York City. And I'm like, studios in New York City? I'm in bed. But I was running the video and the cameras and it's actually a really odd experience. You know, you're sitting in bed and you're watching people on camera. You just hope they don't see you back. I'm like watching all the cameras and watching everyone walking around at Radio Row, and I could zoom in on them. Anyway, not the point. I don't want to sound like a creep. When I got to thinking about Patrick Mahomes, get back to the point I was trying to make, is that he is so special. All these quarterbacks in the AFC, are they just wasting away their career? Are they waiting for an injury? It's crazy. You might look back at Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, all these guys, CJ Stroud, even throwing Tua Tagovailoa. You might look back at all their careers and wow, these were great quarterbacks. How'd they never win? Well, they played in the era of Patrick Mahomes. So kind of they didn't have anything going for them. And when I think about the New York Jets, I'm like, so what's our rush to turn this thing around? It's almost a weird thing where it's they need to bring back Aaron Rodgers. That's how I thought about this. The dominance of Patrick Mahomes ends twofold. Number one, and again, just so I can make this clearer, the dominance of Patrick Mahomes is a direct reason why the Jets need to bring back Aaron Rodgers. Because we've seen all these quarterbacks, like I just mentioned, Burrow, Allen, Lamar, not be able to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. CJ Stroud, Tua Tagovailoa, obviously Justin Herbert. None of these guys can beat him in the playoffs. So who's it going to take to beat a Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs? Someone who is as special. And while Aaron Rodgers at the end of his career is going to be 42 years old and all that stuff, he still is that special guy who can get it done. Now, I think if Rodgers doesn't come back with the Jets, go to the NFC. You'll be the best quarterback tomorrow in the NFC. You might meet him in the Super Bowl, and who knows? Anything can happen. But again, the Jets roster is really good. There's a really solid roster here. When you look at the roster, you fix a couple of things here. If the coaching staff is actually better, maybe you go and you have this magical run and Rodgers could actually beat Mahomes. I trust Rodgers more than any of those guys. None of those guys could do it. We saw Burrow do it once, but I trust Rodgers as much as any of those guys because of how special he is, even at this age. He's one of those guys. He's one of those special talents in the league. And you know what? even if Rodgers is terrible and the roster isn't as good, we're overrating it, and this is a terrible season for the Jets, and it goes totally down the tubes, and they have just another disastrous season in year one of Aaron Glenn, and Aaron Rodgers just has to retire. Even if that happens this year and the Jets totally crash out again, still it's the right decision to bring back Aaron Rodgers. You know why? Because there's no rush to rebuild when Patrick Mahomes is owning the AFC anyway. What are you going to do? You're going to bring in a quarterback and start the process now so that by the time he's in his prime, Patrick Mahomes is still dominating the AFC? If anything, delay it a year. I told you rebuilds only take like 1 year in the NFL if done properly. Delay it a year. See what happens. Crash and burn this year so that maybe Patrick Mahomes is closer to his retirement. Again, I'm not telling you that every AFC team should just give up because Patrick Mahomes is here. But don't half-ass it. Don't go with a bridge quarterback. Either take your shot with Aaron Rodgers, who's one of the special quarterbacks ever, or watch it crash and burn with Aaron Rodgers. And then you know you have to rebuild and rebuild after that. And then maybe by the time you're fully rebuilt, Patrick Mahomes is 31, 32, and who knows how many years he has left. If I was Joe Burrow, I'd ask for a trade. I want to see one of these big quarterbacks ask for a trade to the NFC and just be like, I can't do this anymore. And Joe Burrow would be the guy because they're not going to pay T. Higgins. He could get frustrated in Cincinnati. I could see it. I hope there's a Joe Burrow trade. That's the one I'm looking forward to. As much as I don't love the athletes being divas and whatever, who cares? Let him be a diva. Let him get what he wants. All right. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. Let's talk about props. So what I'm trying to look at is how can I make money on betting on the Chiefs? Because they're favored, and they shouldn't be. Like, they should be the underdog. But let's start with the other side. If you like the Eagles in this game, the bet to make is for Saquon Barkley to win the MVP. Because if they win this game, I guarantee you Saquon Barkley is going to have 100 rushing yards, a touchdown, maybe 2. He's going to win the MVP. But all those other odds, a touchdown is like minus money, 100 yards is minus money. But for him to win the MVP, it's plus 260. So if you like Saquon Barkley, or if you like the Eagles to win this game, they're going to rely heavily on Saquon. He's going to win the MVP. Just bet that. Bet Saquon plus 260, and then you're golden. That's your bet. You get so much better juice for that. You could even parlay it with him to score a touchdown and them to win the game. Just parlay it all together. Now I'm in New York right now as I'm recording this. I'm gonna be in New Jersey on Sunday morning. So hopefully I'll have a chance to look at that and actually see what the total odds are, but that would be a bet that I would think about if I was trying to bet this game. A couple other things. Kay Adams has this bet on FanDuel, and I love it. It's plus 492. It's great odds. AJ Brown to have 50 plus receiving yards. A Kareem Hunt anytime touchdown, a Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown, and Patrick Mahomes have only 200 plus passing yards. Plus 492. I like those juicy odds. I bet that. I love Karlaftis to have an anytime sack when you're looking at the Chiefs and anyone to have a sack in this game. He's plus 116 to record a sack. He's got like a ton of playoff sacks. He always has their biggest sacks and their biggest moments. We know that Jalen Hurts doesn't really throw picks. He either holds on to the ball too long or throws it away. I could see a case where, pockets collapsing on him and he decides, I'm going to try and scramble out and run for it, and Karlaftis just tackles him. Even if he starts the scramble and gets a few yards, as long as he doesn't get beyond the line of scrimmage, it would be a sack. So I like a Karlaftis sack at plus 116. And if you parlay a Karlaftis sack, I said, how can you make money on the Chiefs winning this game? Well, a few things are going to happen if the Chiefs are going to win this game. First of all, I think Kareem Hunt is going to score a touchdown. He scored a touchdown in 7 consecutive games now, I think it is. Or maybe it's 4 consecutive games still. Hunt is plus 150 to score a touchdown. He's my favorite touchdown scorer prop in this game. I know Saquon's going to score. I know that probably Hurts will run one in, but those are both minus money. I think the best bang for your buck is Kareem Hunt at plus 150 to score a touchdown. If you parlay the Karlaftis sack with the Chiefs money line, not even the minus 1.5, you get plus 217. So now that's closer to what we like over here. A bet for Travis Kelce, because everyone wants to bet on Travis Kelce, but I do think all this stuff is boosted because they know that people want to bet on Travis Kelce. So I do think the best bet, and thank you to Cousin Sal and Bill Simmons for pointing this one out, because I do think this is the best Travis Kelce bet as far as also bang for your buck. Travis Kelce, 25 plus yards in each half, receiving yards in each half, is plus 190. So You only need him to get 50 receiving yards, and 25.5 should happen. My favorite Chiefs bet is Mahomes over 5.5 rushing attempts. If you think they're going to win this game, first of all, rushing attempts, he's going to do that. He's going to run for more than 6 times. He's done it, I think, in every one of their playoff games, any one of the Super Bowls. They always rely on him heavy for the runs. But the reason why you really like it if you think they're going to win is because of the kneel downs. You could get 1, 2, or 3 kneel downs at the end. Those each count as rushing attempts. So if he gets 3 kneel downs, then all you need, he's going to run the ball at least 3 or 4 times. So all you need is a couple kneel downs after that. That's minus 128. But I think that is great value there also. So those are the bets I like. Look, I like the Chiefs in this game. I can't help it. Like, I really do think there's a chance that Philly just runs them over. But I also think, and our lights just went out over here, but I also think there's a major recency bias. I think there's a serious recency bias. So we're just going to do the rest of the show without lights. Hopefully the lights will turn back on, but the electricity just blew a little bit, which is funny. All right, we're back. The lights went out for a minute, so that was fun. Maybe it's an omen for the Super Bowl. Last time the Super Bowl was in New Orleans, the lights went out after the Beyonce halftime show. So the electricity just blew in my apartment. So thank you for everyone who participated in restoring that. Hopefully that doesn't happen again at the Super Bowl. That was rough. That time that happened. So hopefully that doesn't happen again in New Orleans. But I do think the Chiefs are going to win this game. Look, I could see the Eagles turning around and handing the ball off and dominating the Chiefs, and it just feeling like, well, the Eagles just were the better team today. But if it's going to be close, the Chiefs are going to find a way. And don't bet against them. Like, it's so much fun. Last year when the Chiefs were down a couple scores and they had an opportunity and I was like chilled. Everyone else was like, "Oh yeah, San Francisco." And I'm like, "Dude, he's going to do it. Mahomes is going to do it." I never want to be sitting on my couch and rooting against Patrick Mahomes. I never want to sit there and be like, like stressed because Patrick Mahomes has the ball in his hands. Like, I don't want that experience in my life. I'm sorry. I want to be able to sit on my couch and relax knowing that my money is in the hands of Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to bet on the Chiefs, and I'm going to bet them one way or another. And if it's a close game, that's what they've been doing all year. They've just been winning close games. What was the number? Like 17 games in a row and 1-score games? This is what they do. They win these close games. So if you think the Eagles are going to win, let me tell you, bet them minus 7.5. That's what I would do. Because if they win, it's going to be winning big. But I don't believe that's going to happen. The Chiefs scored 30 points for the first time all year last week against the Bills. I think they do it again. I'm going to take the Chiefs to win 31-26. The Chiefs are going to be the Super Bowl three-peat. Patrick Mahomes is going to win MVP. It's incredible. And by the way, that's the minus 1.5 too. Take the minus 2.5. Maybe you like the minus 3.5 if you think they'll win like by 5, like I do. I think my favorite bet is the Chiefs money line, but I think the minus 1.5 is still very much like you could take the minus 1.5 and feel comfortable with that. 31-26 Chief is my Super Bowl prediction. Until next time, like, subscribe, share the podcast. I appreciate everyone for listening. Sorry for the technical difficulties. See ya.